our
Canadian
Grand
Prix
F1
driver
rating.
This video is sponsored by the wonderful people at Squarespace.
That's right. We're about to grade your favourite drivers from 0 all the way to 10. If you're watching on YouTube, it's 30 degrees in my room, and I'm sorry for the unintentional... I was going to call it a thirst trap. It's not a thirst trap. What's the opposite of a thirst trap?
It is a thirst trap.
No. Oh, okay, you're enjoying it. A hydrating trap. That's what
We're
it
all
is.
here for
Right, okay, let's get it. Let's start with Gabriel Bortoleto. Started the race in 15th, finished 14th. I'm going to lock in for Gabriel Bortoleto, not a 5, but a 6 out of 10. I have to remind myself when I do these ratings that my expectations for drivers such as Bortoleto and other rookies should be slightly shifted. I know we're 10 races in, but 10 races is not a huge amount. But I think he did all right. He didn't start at the back. I think the Sauber, again, we're having to shift our thoughts on where this car deserves to be now, and Hulkenberg is proving that with his phenomenal performances, but not to take anything away from Nico. But for Bortoleto, he got ahead of Sainz at the start. He was keeping Colapinto behind, obviously another rookie. But it was one of those DRS trains that I believe he very much got stuck in, but by no means a bad performance.
Yeah, I've gone for a 6 for Bortoleto as well. He missed out on Q2 by 0.07 of a second, which is very unlucky indeed. So you never know what he might have done if he'd have made it through there from the slimmest of margins. A very bizarre strategy again. I'd love to see the day where Sauber actually put him on a normal strategy, because he went 49 laps on the hards and then for the mediums at the end. So, but still not the greatest weekend, but certainly not an appalling one.
The fans gave Gabriel a 6 as well. Nico Hulkenberg started the race in 11th, finished 8th.
I have gone for a 10 out of 10 for Nico Hulkenberg. I'm not going to punish him just because he finished P5 in the last race. I still think 8th in a Sauber is beyond expectation. Don't get me wrong, the Sauber is a much better car than it was last year when we were expecting them to finish last every single weekend. But do I think it's a car that is almost winning the midfield battle? Absolutely not. So for him to do that, yeah, it's another brilliant performance from Hulkenberg. I'm
going to lock in a 9. It's a very high 9, mainly because there were slight good fortune mixed in with for Nico. Obviously, the Franco and Alex little kerfuffle allowed Nico to come steaming through. I mean, there's nothing to take away from the fact that he placed the car well. And then he also finished behind Alonso, which potentially he could have beaten him. Obviously, Alonso was on a slightly different strategy. But yeah, it's still a phenomenal grade. It's still a phenomenal drive. But is it the perfect one? It's close. It's so close.
What a mad situation that Nico Hulkenberg.
And may I just remind everyone
it as well.
Right now that is typing ferociously saying, how can you not give Nico Hulkenberg a 10? A 9 is not a 4, okay?
Yeah,
a 9 is a very close to perfect. So well done, Nico. The fans, so you shouldn't be writing ferociously in the comments, gave him a 9. So there you go.
Are you looking to launch a passion project, showcase your business, or finally create the website you've been dreaming of? With Squarespace, you get an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to get online, no matter your experience level. I've been using Squarespace and it's an absolute game changer. Their cutting-edge design tools are fantastic. Whether you're customizing templates or using their AI-powered blueprint tool to get your site up in just a few clicks, the possibilities are endless. Plus, with Squarespace's built-in payment options, managing everything from online stores to services is completely seamless, all while accepting payments on your terms. It's so easy to integrate appointment scheduling and email marketing, helping you stay connected with your audience effortlessly. Simply lovely. Ready to create your own website? Head to squarespace.com/P1 to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/P1.
Alex Albon started the race in 9th, did not finish. This one was kind of a hard one to grade because he, of course, qualified really well in comparison to his teammate Carlos, but then got involved in that incident that I just mentioned that Hulkenberg profited from, where I'm kind of questioning why Alex sort of went for it in the first place. It was a very risky move at a part of the track where two cars don't tend to go. So Albon, of course, then falling down because of that, and then was on a really rubbish strategy. I haven't even said my grade yet. So 5 out of 10. So 5 out of 10 for Albon. I'm not going to give him any lower than a 5 because he was in a good position at the start. So that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I've gone for a 5 as well. I totally agree that the move with Colapinto, I think that's one you have to back out of. And of course, then going over the runoff area and jumping into the air probably didn't do that car any good, which of course later retired with a mechanical failure. We'll never know if that was the actual reason, but it probably didn't help leaping into the air and then slamming on the floor. But he qualified well, so it's no harsher than a 5.
The fans gave him a 5 as well. Carlos Sainz started the race in 16th, finished 10th.
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. Very unlucky in qualifying, of course, getting blocked by Isack Hadjar. For him to actually get points in the end is pretty impressive. I do think Williams will be quite gutted, actually, to only come away from that weekend with a single point after they were looking so strong in practice. But it's a good drive from Carlos to recover to a point.
I've also gone for a 7 out of 10 for Carlos. I can't downgrade him for where he starts because he was so heavily impeded. 3 to 4 tenths, he said, at the end of qualifying. And then he was managing issues throughout the race as well. So for him to still score a point is pretty good going. But considering where our expectations are for Williams now, a 10th is like, all right, moving on. The fans gave him a 7 as well. Isack Hadjar started the race in 12th, penalised 3 places for impeding in qualifying, and then finished the race in 16th. It's a poor weekend for Isack. I'm going for a 4 out of 10 for Hadjar. Now, I know I said at the top of the show, I'd shift my ratings because of for rookies and things like that. Hadjar is rookie of the season at the moment. And this was, just a poor race, a poor strategy. He said at the end of the race that they pitted too late, had high grading at the start, and then just had no pace compared to the cars around him at the end as well. So I can't really give him a particularly good grade, considering what we've seen from him this year. It definitely was one of the poorer weekends.
I have gone for a 6 for Isack Hadjar. I think he did very, very well to get into Q3 when his teammate didn't even make it out of Q1. But yeah, his race, of course, wasn't that great. The penalty probably didn't help him being caught in the midfield. But definitely one of his worser races this weekend, for sure.
Intriguing. The fans meet us in the middle and go for a 5. Liam Lawson started the race from the pit lane, did not finish.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Liam Lawson. His qualifying was poor, but he'd made up a few places in the race and managed to kind of mix it up in that midfield pack, and then obviously retired with something that wasn't his fault. So a bit of a weekend to forget, really, but I don't think it was absolutely appalling from him, just not great, and he really needs to pick up his pace with Lindblad kind of waiting in the wings and now being allowed this kind of opportunity to drive if they need him.
I've gone for a 3 out of 10 for Lawson. I think it was a pretty poor weekend and definitely poorer than Hadjar. I know you say that he was mixing it in with the midfield, but I think the only reason he was doing that was because he was staying out on hard tyres and some of the drivers behind him had pit earlier, and he was just causing this kerfuffle. I think he would have finished right at the back had it not been for obviously the DNF, and we don't know where he would have finished, but he was definitely lacking pace and causing all kinds of problems out there in Montreal. The fans gave him a 3 as well. Ollie Bearman started the race in 13th, finished 11th. I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Ollie Bearman. Every time we rode on board with him, I felt like he was sideways or locking up or just having a little bit of a scruffy weekend, and to finish just outside the points after all of that is pretty mad. But he showed good pace, and I think is fully deserving of a 7 out of 10. And as I say, just a small amount behind the points.
I've gone for a 7 for Ollie Bearman as well. He was one of the many drivers that got stuck in DRS trains in the midfield. Very, very difficult to pass, of course, but it's still a fairly decent performance from Ollie. But I still feel like there's more to come from him. You can see that he's got something special there, and he just needs to kind of cut out silly mistakes here and there, because I do feel like it's only a matter of time before he has that kind of performance like Ocon has, where he pops it in like a P7 or a P8 in a race, and it's a great performance.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's just maybe a bit slower of a builder of this momentum and getting fully dialed in with the car. But as I said, pre-season, I thought he was going to be the driver that really stood out, and I still believe that he will get better as this season goes on. The fans gave him a 7 as well. Esteban Ocon started the race in 14th, finished 9th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. A very good result for Haas, for him to grab some more points. A crazy strategy that worked, going
Haas,
really long.
strategies?
Yeah, I know, they love it. And Ocon's been doing that a lot this year, and it's just worked for him. When you kind of could risk everything and maybe get a P8 or a P9, or play it safe and finish 13th, there are no points for 13th. So even if you finish, and we've seen this with Haas, that sometimes it has gone wrong and they've finished at the back and they've been terrible, and Australia, they were like a lap down, and you're thinking, what on earth are they doing? But they've also got a huge chunk of points on the board because they keep rolling the dice, and yeah, fair play to them.
They keep out-strategizing the rest of the field. I have also gone for an 8 out of 10 for Ocon. A brilliant drive. Obviously qualifying, nothing special, but yeah, Haas strategy are cooking. And obviously the drivers are doing well as well to execute on what is clearly a decent car in the races. So an 8 out of 10 from me to Ocon. The fans agree. They've gone for 8 as well. Franco Colapinto started the race in 10th, finished 13th. This one is a difficult one. I think, you know what? I'm going to give Franco Colapinto a 7 out of 10 because he did very well, especially in comparison to what he was doing, where we were starting to mildly ring alarm bells, just a small one. But I think Colapinto in qualifying was great, with his teammate literally last. And then even in the race, finishing still ahead of Gasly. It wasn't a massive distance between them in the end, but I still think it was a confidence builder for Franco. And as much as 13th is nothing to write home about, I think that Alpine was pretty shocking, and Colapinto kept his nose clean and did pretty well, in my opinion.
I've gone for a 7 for Franco Colapinto as well. Brilliant in qualifying, has to be said. Almost, wasn't a million miles off making it into Q3. He was absolutely gutted about not making it into Q3, which, yeah, Formula 1 drivers are always going to want more, but I think his starting position, which of course after penalties ended up 10th, was a really great performance because Alpine are really struggling. And in the race, he looked like he had a lot more pace. He's not kind of the Colapinto that maybe we saw at Williams, but he's still kind of getting to grips with that car, and this is a much more positive performance from him because the pressure was really on, because if he'd had another one where he'd qualified last and had no race pace and was kind of languishing at the back, you never know what Alpine might do. So,
well, the fans, they gave him a 6. They weren't as impressed with Franco Colapinto's weekend. Pierre Gasly started the race from the pit lane and finished 15th.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly. Got a little bit caught out by the red flag, but then had a second lap which didn't quite work out, and then kind of came through the field and finished, right near his teammate in the end. Played the team game, letting Colapinto go as well, and but still a disappointing one for Pierre Gasly, who in theory should be the stronger Alpine driver. So I've gone for a 5.
I've gone for a 4. I'm not going to be so nice about Pierre Gasly's performance because it was not great. And I know that he was on a lap, I think, in Q1, but it was the red flag
for
came
Albon,
out.
Yeah.
So he said that he was on for a good lap there, and then the final lap, he struggled to get the tyres in the right window. But still, he put the pressure on himself, and sadly, this is what what was delivered was a P20, and then to finish 15th, this is not the Pierre Gasly that I certainly expect. It's a very much an off weekend for Gasly, so I can't give him any higher than a 4. The fans gave him a 4 as well. Lance Stroll started the race in 17th, finished 17th. What a performance. It's going to be a 2. It's going to be a 2 out of 10. 17th and 17th when your teammate is qualifying 6th and then finishing 7th is just so far off it. I know that he had his little wrist operation to make him good for Canada, but at the same time, don't come back if you're not ready, or I don't think he even said he wasn't ready. So he just said he wasn't pleased with the weekend, rough long day, so not much more to say, which is unsurprising to see Lance Stroll not be particularly chatty with the media. So yeah, I'm going for a 2, not happy at all.
I have gone for it's between a 2 and a 3.
Ooh.
But I'm actually going to go for a 2. The qualifying was incredibly poor, but then in the race he got a 10-second penalty, which I look back on now. At the time I thought it was actually a bit harsh, but watching it again from like the replays and seeing the whole context, he does squeeze in when Gasly was alongside him, so I understand why he got the penalty. And then to just be kind of at the back, quite back of that kind of train and dead last, while your teammate is way up the road and kind of at the top of the midfield, is a shocker, has to be said. And you do wonder if he's raced back too quickly, if he has indeed got his arm in bandages and things. And I understand that he wanted to race in his home Grand Prix and things, but it did not work for him at all.
It did not, and the fans are also of the same opinion. They've gone for a 2 out of 10 as well. Fernando Alonso started the race in 6th, finished 7th.
I'm giving Fernando Alonso a 10. I know his teammate has done badly and we roast Stroll for not being very good, but he can do well on his day and can show some good pace, and Alonso's absolutely destroyed him. I think his qualifying was absolutely sensational to out-qualify a McLaren in a Ferrari, when I think the gap between the front runners and the midfield now is an absolute chasm. He made it happen, he got an amazing qualifying, and then to finish best of the midfield, I can't give him anything other than a 10, because I think he's just had an absolutely spot-on race, and when I see it at the end, out of like all the drivers, I think he's had one of the best Grand Prix, along with Nico Hulkenberg and another individual that we'll get onto later.
Oh, Tommy, you are teasing me, because I had very similar discussions in my own head. What is it going to be? It's going to be a 10. Fine. I've changed it. Well done, Fernando Alonso. I mean, it was, again, it's not deciding whether he's had a rubbish race or an amazing race. It's whether it's amazing or kind of amazing. But no, we'll go with amazing. 10 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso. Thoroughly impressive. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. The fans, they said a bit amazing. 9 out of 10. Kimi Antonelli started the race in 4th, finished 3rd. 10. It's 10. Kimi Antonelli, come on, my guy. Now, this is probably with some rose-tinted glasses on, because I was very happy to see Antonelli on the podium, and there were definitely small flaws in this weekend, i.e. qualifying was still pretty, in the grand scheme of things, far off George. But I was so impressed with his race that I can't give him anything other than a 10. His race pace was pretty comparable to what George was putting down, and George was on fire this weekend. Antonelli is 10 races into his Formula One career. So it is such a step up from what we've seen from Kimi Antonelli this year. Miami is, of course, another one that I look to, but even Miami, he had mistakes in there. This one, he fully delivered in the race and scored a brilliant podium. He had 2 McLarens behind him, bearing down on him, could have easily made a mistake to let Piastri or Norris through had that incident not happened. But yeah, 10 out of 10.
I've also gone for a 10 out of 10 for Kimi Antonelli. His qualifying, I think, was disappointing, even though the result of it was obviously great to be P4, but it was a long way off George. But the way he held on to, Russell during the race is incredible, because I think that race had rookie struggles written all over it with the tyre deg. It's a difficult track. So for him to be, before Lando's incident, he was about 4 seconds behind Russell, is absolutely sensational. Definitely the best performance that he's had in a Formula One car so far, and excited to see what comes next for him. And yeah, very wholesome to see a new guy on the podium, and the crowd were absolutely loving it. That was great to see as well.
They certainly were. The fans have given him a 10. George Russell. This one's going to be a hard one. Started the race from first, finished first.
It's a 10 out of 10 for George Russell. These are the races where earlier in the season, I think George was delivering a great performance, but we said, can he kind of take it to that next level and deliver a win? And similar to kind of like what Max has done in a few races this year, you've kind of had, this has probably been the only race where Mercedes had an opportunity to win, and George got pole and won the race. So, it's a brilliant drive from George. His Q3 lap was brilliant. And it's just a really, really, really good drive from him. Of
course, I've gone for a 10 out of 10 for George Russell. George was phenomenal from the start of the weekend all the way through to the end. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where is this Mercedes at as we head to the next few races? We always thought in hot conditions they're not going to be able to perform. It was hot. The track temperature was hot on Sunday, and George's pace did not fall off. And he managed the race beautifully. It's just, it gets me excited to see what Mercedes can maybe do, and will they challenge in weekends coming up? We'll have to wait and see. But a 10 from me, and the fans gave him a 10 as well. Yuki Tsunoda started the race from 18th. He was penalised 10 places for overtaking under red flags in practice, and then finished the race in 12th. So 5 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. Stayed out, clearly hoping for some advantageous VSC safety car, maybe the Ocon strategy, where it pretty much was the Ocon strategy. 56 laps on the hards before he then pit. But I mean, I can't give him any higher than a 5 when he can't even beat Ocon and Sainz on the same strategy in a Red Bull that is, once again, challenging for the win. It's sad to see. But when you're so far down at the start of the race, how can he put together anything good at all? We just need a Yuki Q3. He starts 6th or 7th. Then let's really see what's going down.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda as well. His penalty is... I can see why he was maybe a bit miffed by it. What actually is quite interesting that I saw at the end of the race was a bit of team radio from Yuki. And I can understand his frustration here because, of course, at the end of the race, a lot of drivers overtook at the end of the race, of course, after the checkered flag, but it was still safety car conditions. And Yuki Tsunoda, I think quite rightly, said on the radio, well, if I got penalised for that in practice, why isn't it a penalty for everyone else? So I can see why he's kind of annoyed by that. I would be too. Given the fact
it's
that
red flag conditions compared to safety car end of the race.
But then if it's rules are rules, why can you get away with it from the safety car thing? And I
guess it's not completely black and white in terms of it's not like it was both red flag situations and then we both had overtakes. Maybe there's some leniency when it comes to that. But yeah, I can also understand why he'd question it for sure. The penalty was deserved in my opinion, and yeah, he was upset because, of course, that was the damaged car, and he said, what if the wheel came off and this, that, and the other? My thinking of that was also, what's the rush? It's a red flag situation. Maybe there needed to be more team comms from Red Bull. I don't know exactly what the team radio was in that practice session, but just hang back. You're literally on the back straight, going to the pit lane for a red flag. You don't need to rush through, in my opinion. So either or. He got penalised massively, and that basically screwed his weekend from there. The fans gave him a 5. Max Verstappen started the race in second, finished second.
I have gone for a 9 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. Probably the only driver in the world who could get P2 when his teammate is 12th and get a 9 out of 10. But you always feel like when the car is good, Max could get a win. And I don't think, he certainly didn't have a dominant car, but maybe is a bit of a victim of his own success here, because he's kind of maximised a good result for what the machinery he's got. But, when that car is there, we know how good Max can be, and you feel like a 10 drive would be him, winning the race. And it didn't look like, for me, it almost looked more like he was close to getting overtaken by Antonelli than he was ever challenging Russell for the win. So that's why I've gone for a 9.
I've gone for a 9 as well. It's close to a 10 in some ways because it was a brilliant performance from Max to put it on the front row of the grid and then just be in the mix for winning that race was great. And I think the strategy as well from Red Bull was absolutely on point. Reacting, it was. He said after the race, it was an aggressive strategy and a very defensive race, and that's kind of very much what played out. Every time Antonelli got close and was about to pass, he jumped into the pits, took the undercut, and then kept track position because he knew that was key. Brilliant stuff. 9 out of 10. The fans gave him a 9 as well. Lewis Hamilton started the race in 5th, finished 6th. I am going to give Lewis Hamilton a 7 out of 10. I am going to defend Lewis Hamilton. He was running a very alone race due to a groundhog called Gary, who decided to introduce himself to the 7-time champion in the middle of the small straight towards the hairpin. Caused him 20 points of downforce loss, which is around half a second a lap. So it's hard to fully grade him. I'm not going to give him any lower than that. He outqualified Leclerc. Yes, we know why Leclerc was outqualified, this, that and the other, bit of dirty air, etc., etc. But Hamilton was, it was a reasonable qualifying, and who knows what he could have done. But I'm going to give him a very sympathetic 7 out of 10.
Yep, I've gone for a 7 as well. It's a very much of what might have been for Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, very, very unlucky because of good qualifying, and then, unfortunately, couldn't do anything, and would have been interesting to see what he could have done, but we will never know because, of course, once you damage those floors in this regulation, you are absolutely screwed.
You certainly are. The fans gave him a 7 as well. Charles Leclerc started the race in 8th, finished 5th.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc, and I do wish, even now after all this time, just Charles get on the radio and say, no, Ferrari, jog on, I want to do this, because look at what Ocon did on a one-stop strategy and things like that. So just try something different if you want to do it. As we've said with the Hasses, that, if you want to finish 5th, go ahead. But if you want to risk it and still finish 5th or maybe 6th, why not? And, it's about time we saw Charles really standing up to Ferrari, because that's what, I think they need.
I've also gone for a 7 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc. A very much a what could have been weekend, which is just devastatingly painful for me, because he could have been in the fight for pole. He could have been right in there in the race as well, but we just won't know, because sadly that's not what happened. On the Ferrari strategy stuff, it feels like they need to implement something to allow Charles to be creative if necessary, because from what I'm seeing, Charles has these ideas, which sometimes will be right, sometimes will be wrong, but he doesn't feel confident enough with them because he feels as though Ferrari know the full picture. So what Ferrari need to do is go, we see the full picture here, Charles. We think the 2-stop is better, but the 1 is viable. Rather than just overriding what Charles says and going, well, we're going to go for a 2-stop. That isn't a relationship that is productive or allowing Charles, who literally is in the car, knows what the tyres are doing. He literally said afterwards, the tyres were fine. So there needs to be more communication. You compare that to the radios that we've seen from like Bono and GP, where they get on the radio and they go, here's all the information, tell us what you want to do, or we can make the decision for you. Yeah, so please sort that stuff out, whether it is literally just radio engineer and Charles Leclerc need to sit down and figure out a better way of working, because this isn't the first time that it's happened, and it's certainly not going to be the last either. What's the point in having Charles Leclerc feeding back if they're just going to choose their own strategy anyway? And that's what it always feels like it is. It's never really, it feels like, oh, okay, Charles, actually, what you said is a good point. We'll go for that. It just always seems like there's a battle. The fans gave Charles a 7. Lovely stuff. Oscar Piastri started the race in 3rd, finished 4th. I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri, one of his lowest grades of the year, because, McLaren have set a very high benchmark, and Oscar was looking pretty poor in practice. Now, that's not to take away the fact that he managed to still score good points, still extend his championship lead, but it did feel like a slightly off-colour Oscar Piastri this weekend. But he still did everything needed as a championship protagonist to keep himself very much in the picture. So that's what I think a 7 represents for me.
I've gone for an 8 for Oscar Piastri. I think he's done a solid job. I don't think McLaren was the quickest car this weekend. I think they could have got a win. But, he was very close at the end to maybe even nicking a podium before the collision. And I think it's just one of those drives that, like you say, is what champions do when everything's going against you and you're not having your greatest weekend. He still almost came out with a podium finish and, also, of course, extended his lead in the championship as well. So, a good drive from Oscar, but certainly not one of his best.
It's weird because I'm kind of the opinion that McLaren did have the fastest car this weekend. We saw glimmers of that with Lando, and it was more of like an Oscar Piastri just struggling a little bit, and
of course didn't use the suspension either. Did either new upgrades? Which
so
maybe
that was a factor. Anyway, the fans gave Oscar a 7. Lando Norris started the race in 7th, technically classified in 18th.
I've gone for a 1 out of 10 for Lando Norris. Can't really have got any worse than him. He qualified poorly, messed up his Q3 lap, which put him on the back foot. And then even had the pace to do very well, at least get on the podium, I think. But then, of course, crashed into his teammate with a really silly error, which, of course, he owned up to, and fair play to him. But it was a really poor move that, just made completely the wrong call. Very fortunate from his side that he also didn't take his teammate out of the race, which is, the biggest no-no as well. And then also, in a weird way, he's slightly fortunate that it happened in the last 4 laps because he got classified, and the 5-second penalty therefore is redundant because it would have meant that he would have carried that over to the next race and could have damaged him even more. So I just don't see how it can really get much worse for him. So for me, it has to be a 1, and he has to go down as the driver that scores the least points here, like the lowest in the driver rating standings, as you were.
Very fair. I'm going to be slightly more generous and give him a 2 because he was showing, and I'm going to give the one positive of the weekend, which was the fact he was rapid and he was turning around a poor qualifying into what looked like and was shaping up to be a pretty decent race. He was going to, if he'd pulled off the move, beat Oscar Piastri, his championship rival, in a weekend where he had quite a few mistakes. Now for the negatives. Yes, qualifying was poor, messed up not 1 but 2 of his Q3 laps, which put him 7th on the grid. And his potential, I don't know how Lando fans feel about this, but watching it unfold, it must be so frustrating to see quite clearly a very fast driver just not be able to perform. And what we've seen most of the time this year in qualifying, the qualifying has been his big Achilles heel. And once again, right on the cusp of putting a solid lap in and then messes up the last chicane. And then we fast forward to the race. Yeah, it's completely his fault. Looking back, it's quite a severe misjudgment because when I watched the video, there's never really a car width.
Never.
At any point where he is close, there is not a car width. He's assumed that Oscar's going to pull slightly to the right to go towards the racing line. But that is an assumption, and he didn't. And Oscar is well within his rights to hold that inside line. And what's even more painful is that he had the overspeed. So I am firmly of the opinion he's at least side by side or halfway past Oscar going towards turn 1, where he then goes into turn 2 and have the inside line. So it's a pretty catastrophic error for Lando. And if people are saying championship over, I still don't believe it. He's still within a race win. This wasn't for the victory. Had there been a 25-point swing, this could have been much bigger for his championship. But yeah, I'm going to lock in a 2 out of 10. And he needs to reset and go again in Austria. And there are a few positives, I think, to take away from this weekend. The fans, a lot more generous. Gave him a 4 out of 10.
Very, very generous.
Very generous. But hey, we're not allowed to cook the fans. The fans are only allowed to cook us. This is how this relationship works. They are the rules. And that is it. We are done here for the F1 driver ratings for the Canadian Grand Prix. My P1, Tommy, has to be George Russell. George Russell was phenomenal this weekend. He's going to be my P1. Congratulations, George, on a beautifully crafted P1.
Mine is Fernando. No, it's not really. It's George Russell. Of course, it's George Russell. Is a brilliant, a perfect drive from George. Can't be anyone else. He was far and away the best driver this weekend, not even just the race.
There we go. Lovely stuff. So we'll say that was your final thoughts, Tommy, and we will see you next week for the week after. No, they're technically next week for the predictions because there's not a race this weekend, and then it's next week. Perfect. Good. That's great. What a well crafted outro. So we'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.
Bye.